Hello, welcome to the Canadian History Teacher channel on YouTube. I will be giving a very brief overview of the Persons case. This video was made with grade 10 Ontario History curriculum in mind. The Ontario curriculum for grade 10 history expects students to be able to explain the goals and accomplishments of groups such as the famous five who launched the case, Edwards versus Canada, or what we now call the Persons case. The Ontario curriculum also requires that grade 10 history students describe some significant developments in the rights and lives of women in Canada during 1914 to 1929. Considering these curriculum expectations, the learning goal for this video is for students to understand the significance of what the famous five did and the cause and consequences of the Persons case. The Persons case was a Supreme Court case to determine if women were persons, as discussed in the British North America Act that outlines the rules of this country and the responsibilities of different levels and branches of government. The famous five went to the Supreme Court of Canada so that women all over Canada could participate fully in politics. So how it started. Why was the Persons Act even necessary? Emily Murphy was appointed magistrate in Alberta, or what we now call a provincial judge. Her appointment was challenged on the grounds that women were not persons in the eyes of the law. The BNA Act used the words persons to refer to more than one person and he to refer to one person. So because the BNA Act used language like this, a challenge was posed to Emily Murphy's appointment because the BNA Act didn't seem or appear or was interpreted as recognizing women as persons. So it seems silly today, but back then this challenge had to be addressed because of the language used in the British North America Act, or what we call the BNA Act. Fortunately, though, the denial to acknowledge women as persons was criticized as hypocritical, so there was hope, because women were not questioned about their personhood when the law was being used to hold them to account. The challenge posed to Emily Murphy's appointment was not allowed. This was a victory for Emily Murphy and all women in the province of Alberta. Emily Murphy wanted to make sure that women all over Canada could serve in our highest courts all across the country. So she pursued a position in the Senate at the federal level of government. Prime Minister Borden was of the view that women were not persons and therefore could not serve on the Senate. Borden was Prime Minister from 1911 to 1920. Borden is best known for his leadership during World War I. This legacy included women getting the federal vote in 1917. The fact that Borden had supported the vote for women and women had voted for him under the Wartime Elections Act made the declaration that women were not persons even more insulting. Even more determined than ever to resolve this matter, the famous five, who were Irene Parlby, Emily Murphy, Henrietta Muir Edwards, Louise McKenney, and Nellie McClung gathered at the residence of Emily Murphy and signed a letter petitioning the Supreme Court to look into the matter of whether the government could appoint a female senator. The case was debated on March 14, 1928, with the Supreme Court eventually ruling that women were not qualified persons as it related to Section 24 of the British North America Act. The appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada failed. The highest court within Canada had decided that women were not persons and could not serve in the Senate. This did not stop the famous five. At this time in Canada, there was an authority even higher than the Supreme Court of Canada. It was the Privy Council in England. So they petitioned the Privy Council to rule on this matter. On October 18, 1929, Lord Sankey announced the judgment. The Privy Council said yes, women were indeed persons and could become senators in Canada. William Lyon Mackenzie King was Prime Minister when the Persons case concluded. William Lyon Mackenzie King supported the efforts of the famous five, even though he was Liberal and Emily Murphy was a Conservative. Many hoped that Emily Murphy would be the first woman in the Senate. Political affiliations took precedence, and on February 15, 1930, the first woman, Corinne Wilson, was appointed to the Senate. Since 1929, there have been more than 94 senators who identify as women. So why is the Persons case so important? The Persons case has left a lasting legacy. Since 1979, for instance, the Governor General has awarded 5 women each year an award for promoting equality of women and girls in Canada. In 1999, the Women Are Persons monument was unveiled at the Olympic Plaza in Calgary, Alberta, and a similar monument was installed on Parliament Hill in Ottawa, Ontario the following year. This monument, which you see in the picture, was also on the $50 banknote until our then Prime Minister Stephen Harper redesigned the $50 bill, and that design included the removal of the depiction of this monument. But most importantly, though, the Persons case eliminated the last remaining formal barrier that stood in the way of women being able to fully participate in Canadian politics. Consider these questions about the Persons case. These questions should focus your studying before the next unit test. What caused the Persons case? What were the consequences of women being recognized as persons? And why is the Persons case significant?